If you're the kind of Chivalry 2 player that as they improve at the game likes to set milestones for themselves, such as your first 100 bomb, first 50 kill game, or maybe even 100 kills, you're going to quickly realize that a lot has to go into it besides just improving as a player. I'll show you how to set up the right circumstances for that and what you need to do, alongside with our usual narrated gameplay and funny moments, so sit back and enjoy as we attack Falmire. Number 1 is you need the game to go on a very long time. The best ones for this, in my opinion, are by far Dark Forest and Falmire. Dark Forest is very long, but Falmire in particular doesn't really have any gimme objectives that are easy for the attackers to finish quickly, except for this one. But if the attackers get off to a slow start in stage 1, you're going to be in for a very high kill game. And for number 2, you're going to want to have the right loadout. If you're going for kills, I would suggest using the Messer or Greatsword. Spears and halberds are great for takedowns as well. Really, what you want to be using is, surprise, surprise, a lot of meta weapons. For the maximum possible kills and takedowns, as much as I'd love to say it comes down to preference and what you like using the most, you can definitely have outliers, but at the end of the day, just give yourself the best possible chance. Number 3 is you're going to want to have no downtime whatsoever. That can look 2 ways. One is that you're going full-blown berserker, you're going to pile up the deaths, but you're going to take a lot of people going down with you. 2 is you can get back and heal, but get right back in the action. You're not being picky about too many fights. And this is how I'd recommend playing regardless, because it's more fun than being a KD farmer and just getting really bored looking for the perfect opportunity to get kills. The next thing I would say is, unfortunately, we're going to address the elephant in the room here. Objective for a lot of people is optional. If you're someone like me who's an absolute beast, monster at the game, and amazing, you're not going to want to be on the objective too much if you're on attack until the very end where you're going to push it hard. That's what you'll see me do for the most part in this one. And on defense, I would be going hard, defending it at all costs. If you're average, just starting out, maybe even above average, the objective is optional to you, but if you're having too much impact on the game, then reel it in for the game to go longer. And at the end of the day, what I've come to realize over time, the sad reality is, Reddit doesn't want you to know this. If I have 90 kills and only die about 15 times, I am having much more of an impact on the win than someone who isn't but is on the objective at all times dying. Bottom line, if I'm sending people to the respawn screen on the other team, they're not in the game, they're not helping. There's definitely a balance though. You should be playing for the win, because even if you personally don't care about the win, a lot of people do. So if you're trying to get combat in and personal stats, it doesn't hurt you to die a few times on the objective, just out of consideration for helping the team the best you can. All that being said though, if you're doing that most of the time, you can cut yourself some slack and play for your own personal glory, especially in a game like Falmire Dark Forest that goes on endlessly. Throw that out the window for any Tanoja map. Nobody likes those, just get them done. If you're attacking, don't even try, let it end immediately. And the last tip is you have to play really well. I'm sure you never would have guessed that, but you do have to play better than you usually do. Essentially what it boils down to is if you want to get your highest possible kills, you really do need a lot to go right to get, say, 100 kills, 100 bomb if you're not at that ability yet. But these kind of games are what make for a lot of fun, and in this one, I'm going to get 90 kills. I'll let you guys see how many takedowns. We kept the deaths to a minimum. I did have one more game than this with more kills, but I did play better in this with more takedowns and way less deaths. So why don't we get into it as we're wrapping up the first objective. We'll get some tips in and funny moments. Let's get into the actual gameplay. In my opinion, I actually had a 100 kill game because I killed a lot of archers, but on the scoreboard it'll only say 87. Killing them feels so good, it counts for 2. This guy disagrees and wants to defend the archer hard though. This is another way you can pick up some easy kills, even if it does feel a little cheap at times. If you have numbers near the bandage cart, just kill a bunch of people that are trying to heal and low on health. Now we're going to get some easy kills from people turning their back. I need you guys to remember that if you're new and this feels wrong, that's their fault. They're in a bad position. You're being rewarded for your good positioning, and they're being punished for their bad positioning. That is just as much a kill as any insane 1 versus 1 you're going to get into. Now, because I'm incredible at this game, really good, I'm have a huge impact on it, so I'm going to clear the way and have a clear shot at the cart. There's under 2 minutes left. I don't care about dying at this point. The priority is making the game go longer. I'm him. I get it almost completely open by myself, and we're on to objective number 2 as someone clears the rest out for him. Here's a mistake I made. So I mentioned no downtime. I should not be going to the next objective just yet. because I could have cleaned up a few more kills there and gone for the forward spawn. Even Tom Brady threw a few interceptions. Nice high IQ play here where I stab drag through 2 people. Not many people think of how to get 2 kills like that, but I'm thinking always a few steps ahead of the inferior opponents. We're getting some nice kills here from behind by sticking with the team. It may seem like the best way to get kills is to go where most of the enemies are, but if you have 5 teammates with you and 1 enemy, you can probably get at the very least a takedown from a kill there. While the theme of this video is trying to reach your personal best and milestones, 100 bombs, what have you, this helps your team as well and is always a good thing to do. Real quick shout out to Big Glob, who had an awesome game as well. I forgot he was in here. I try and help him, but lose my head in the process. I've always felt that stabbing weapons are best on these bridges or close quarter kind of things, just because it seems like maybe a war axe or giant executioner axe, things like that could be good to just cleave through a bunch of enemies. More than likely though, you're going to be hit stopping on your teammates and doing massive team damage, and no one likes that guy. There are a few people I know who like to change their weapon based on where they are and what the objective is. If you're trying to min-max to that level, that's something you can keep in mind. We're having all kinds of trouble trying to push up this left side. So at some point, we are going to have to push the right side if we want this game to keep going, because this is just not getting it done. I'm not really playing to my weapon strengths at all here, just slashing with no excels, no drags, nothing. Don't be predictable like this and be boring. It's just too easy to defend. For the first year or so of the game, there was a weird bug where console wouldn't have any kind of chase mechanic where if I'm running after someone, I can't catch up to them while they're running directly away. This guy finds out the hard way that that's no longer the case. Besides our friendly archer throwing javelins in the back of our head, trying to be the hero, everything is really coming easy at this point, and we're just piling up kills, and it doesn't really feel like it's coming that difficult. There were a few other level 1000s and high level players in the lobby. Top to bottom, it definitely wasn't the sweatiest, but it was interesting because I didn't think this would be the lobby that I would get my best game of all time in. If there's a player that's very aggressive and using a quick one-hander, I have a big skill issue with that. And this guy's giving me a lot of trouble with the falchion. Let's call a spade here. He's just flat out beating my ass. And he had me dead to rights. Thank God my teammates came to help me. There really is no crazy highlight reel plays just yet. Just solid positioning and taking advantage of good opportunities. Here's one of those cool movie moments. As I'm in trouble here, I'm going to get disarmed. And now, it's kind of like when Jon Snow loses Longclaw to build up drama. I'm using my worst weapon, but I am able to luckily come out on top here. But a very close one against a good player. Unfortunately for us personally, they did get that objective done very quickly. They still had about 4 minutes left, and we're going to skip ahead quite a bit because we didn't take a forward spawn, mopped up some kills from people backing up to the bridge. It really was painful to see that end so quickly. Despite having my best game, that objective and another later one really did fall too quickly. A little disappointing because the 100 kill game was very clearly in sight if they did go a little bit longer. So many enemies are being punished because we are just sticking with the team, and a longsword is really good for stabbing those people and just keep it moving after you get the kill. It's a very well-rounded weapon. It may not seem like it just because that stab is such a focus, but it opens you up for a lot of different scenarios to thrive in. Now you know I'm just feeling myself because I'm going to run behind all these enemies without a big slashing weapon. I just talked about how the longsword, I'm sticking with my team, stabbing, things like that. And we're going to break that rule completely. And this is just more evidence. This was a game where luck was on my side. Everything feels like it's going right. And we're just continuing to pile up the kills. That's a nice triple kill there. No brainer here to decline VIP. I can accept it if I want the 100 kill game, but I don't consider that a truly earned one. If you're just sitting at the bridge farming an inferior team, that's just, who cares really at that point? I want to earn it myself, so I'm going to try and go out with the maximum kills I possibly can with what I felt would be a little bit of cheese doing that. Maybe not quite catapult level, but something similar. And I was in the zone regardless. I haven't really slowed down throughout this whole game. The VIP is playing it very cautious in my opinion, and is going to continue to do that. I think he could have been a little more aggressive here. Going to make some room for him, but you'll never guess what happens next. I feel like picking up the shield was the right call, but again, he's just hanging back a little too much. It was interesting to see that big glove piled up the numbers as well. I think he actually ended up with about 65 kills too. But he didn't get the VIP. I guess he didn't have a war horn. While I am talking about my personal stats too much, even though it is the theme of the video, it did help the case, but it did kind of feel bad for the rest of the team who weren't really doing that and trying to get the win, because he's costing us a lot of time here. 4 minutes to go, and my personal bests are within reach. The game did go on very long. Let's see if we can get that done and pull out a W as well. None of this is meant as disrespect to the guy playing VIP. He's doing his best, but I am here to give you guys tips along the way, and he's making a lot of wrong decisions here, where now he's going to be rushing in, but then backing up once he sees the barricades. It is a lot of pressure to make the right decisions under this circumstance when the win is coming down to you mainly. But the way I see it is you have to either be really aggressive or let your team do the work. You can't really be half in, half out each moment. If you're going to go for that final push to the boat, you have to commit, because now he's getting pushed back, his teammates don't read it correctly, and we're starting to get him surrounded. After a sprint to try and help him get that last push, he's not going to make it. We do get a loss. This is one of the times I'm okay with it, though. My new personal best in takedowns, a lot of kills, and if you guys want to see that 90 kill game I mentioned, it's on the screen right now. Love you guys, see you in the next. Best team objective weapon in Chivalry 2 may not be what you think. I've been talking to some of the truly elite players in the game, and more than one of them has suggested that the Executioner Axe may actually have the highest kill potential out of any weapon in Chivalry 2. At the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts, and if I think that's true, along with some high-level gameplay, lots of kills in this one, some tips, and some really funny moments, we're going to start off with one right here. My teammate downs me. He's level 5 and having a bit of a nightmare sequence here, but that's okay. I always try to remind you guys, be patient. Some of these players are new. The Executioner Axe has amazing drags, one of the best ones in the game. I often talk about how the only drags I'll still fall for are the overheads on the Executioner Axe and the Maul. So as someone with an obscene amount of hours in the game, hopefully that gives you an idea of how effective it can be. If you watched videos of me playing the Heavy Mace and Two-Handed Hammer, I like to rush into crowds and then heavy swing through everyone. Someone's always bound to give you a counter to keep your stamina up, and you'll get loads of kills this way like I did in this one. I'll leave it up to you guys to see how many. As opposed to the Heavy Mace and Two-Handed Hammer, the Executioner Axe just has so much more range, and you're going to do a lot more damage to Vanguards, which of course is a popular class, and you still do get that bonus damage to Knights, even if it's not quite as much as the Two-Handed Hammer or Heavy Mace. The difference with this monstrosity versus those blunt weapons is blunt weapons do have hit stop, but I did find the Executioner Axe you should still be using those heavy swings. The reason being is even if it does cleave through enemies, that if someone counters your attack and doesn't do a riposte, it kind of does work the same way as hit stop. So what I mean by that is if there's 3 enemies horizontal, if the first one is able to get off a counter, you're not going to hit through the rest of them. It stops right there. But the heavy swing gets around that and you can keep attacking and it'll go through all 3 of them. Now, to put it lightly, this is not that great 1 versus 1 at all. you want to be using a lot of overheads. It's very deceptive because it may look like it's small at first, but you'll definitely be surprised by how much it grows. It's definitely at least average length, and you'll be feeling it for days afterward. Now let's get into the gameplay. We're going to be defending Ascandir. We're playing it on Knight because I always think when you're in the fray of it, like you want to be with the Executioner Axe, it's definitely a better option. You're not going to be flanking a lot with this. My biggest skill issue right now in Chivalry 2 is team damage. I'm just being way too reckless, and this weapon is not going to help matters with that, but you'll never guess what happens next. It's an amazing weapon for 1vx's, just swinging through so many people all at once. It's a really fun playstyle that I've seen a lot of my friends try and use. It definitely seems addicting. We take down 2 of them, the 3rd gets us though. They had under a minute to get 3 of them, and somehow they managed to do it. I was pretty lazy on the objective, part of that is on me, but in the last 15 seconds they're going to get it done. The Chivalry 2 gods are going to bless me with a forward spawn, however it is at the worst possible time where I'm already fighting and can't use it. That's going to be a big fat death right there. Way too reckless these last 2 lives. I'm really just starting to get too comfortable getting in these crowds and the wide swings, and it's going to cost me back to back. Watching this back, my drags seem a little off, and something I found out recently is my aim assist has been on for a few of these videos as we get a nice multi-kill. That was not intentional. I'm a bit of a truther when it comes to that because the motion blur will turn on its own. Console people know that bug. But I think the melee aim assist does the same exact thing. It's very evident looking back at this. So if you guys want to let me know what your controller settings are, if you use that, what your sensitivity is, I'm always curious because the Poleaxe, I can link his video in the description, did a great video on all things console and controller. And he had a lot of thoughts on it. On aim assist, he says turn it off. But I always like to hear people's inputs. I know some of the top console players actually do have it on. Just give me your feedback on that. I'd love to hear it. After cleaning up the bridge, we're going to get a moment that just encapsulates Chivalry 2. You feel like the main character, getting a lot of kills. All of a sudden, there's a bard playing a harp at you. You'll love to see it. We're going to start dancing. No trickery involved. I was a little worried he was going to throw it at me for the kill. But we're going to dance. This is just the stuff this game is made for. Take a forward spawn. Bard immunity is one of the funniest memes in the slasher genre. If you don't respect Bard immunity, you're getting a lifetime of teabags, and you may as well be an archer at that point. This game is supposed to be fun. Don't be a virgin. Another issue with the aim assist there is it just pulls me away and messes with my muscle memory, and it costs me that overhead that would have finished the fight much quicker. We may have been able to take that forward spawn after the kill, but alas, we are not. When enemies are really grouped up, the reach on the overheads really is good enough where you can cleave through them if you're dragging it correct. Obviously, you do want to use those slashes when surrounded a lot of people around. Say there's only 2 guys though right next to each other, I think it's a good attack because they're going to have a harder time countering it or just riposting in general. They will take that hit. There is no reason for me to be this far up away from my team. I haven't been in standalones lately. Pubs really will give you bad habits if you're trying to get really good at this game. I barely survived by the skin of my teeth, and honestly it did feel very lucky. It's not like I did much to get out of it. If you are trying to improve though, definitely check out my Discord. It'll be in the pinned comment. That's where we organize a lot of the standalones, those and some other Discords. I'd love to see you there to get some games in. Everyone's a little scattered right now, so I'm trying to like pick and choose where I want to be, where I'm drawing not the most attention, but also be able to hit them from behind and the sides a little bit. It's working to like a mixed effect, I would say, but now my team, they're all gone. So I'm going to try and take out the guy on objective with me. It works for a minute, but again, not for long. We really just are piling up the kills with the Executioner Axe at this point. Unfortunately, it's such a straightforward playstyle. I'm kind of lacking on what tips to give other than what I've already said about fighting in crowds, counters, blah, blah, blah. I've said it a few times now. It's one of the simpler things you can do and still put up a lot of numbers. Something I don't really see working in a competitive setting. But if you're a casual player, which is what we are on this channel, that's what we're all about. You don't care about team damage, as you see there. It's very fun and very effective. All that is to say, this is a perfect game to show how to play the Executioner Axe and what it can look like when you're using it well. So I would suggest looking at the screen in this one. Now I'm going to try and seal the deal here because I hate Ascandir. I really want to win this early. I don't want to do the Tenoja rotation. Let's just get out of here. Go to Lion Spires, the next map. All the good maps are after this. This is my motivation for just putting myself in harm's way. And I did want to say, something you guys have given me feedback about is that my voice is very relaxing to listen to, which is interesting because it's monotone. I got the comment that someone was saying it contrasts very well with the chaos of the game. If you do like that kind of stuff, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. You don't lose anything from doing it. You can always take the subscribe back. Views are down on the channel, but I don't really mind because the Discord is still growing and we got a great community. So as long as you guys are enjoying the videos and Chivalry 2 is still around, I'll be here. I'm going to place this in a tier in a moment, but definitely let me know if you have a weapon request because this is one I don't really use typically, and now that you guys requested it, we both win. You got a cool video, and I got a new weapon that I absolutely love. It was just so fun to use, and oddly enough, very easy. Help Me Steppo is the main player I meant. He was saying it is the best TO weapon in the game. Keep in mind he knows much more about the game and is way more knowledgeable. But for me, a player who goes based on vibes and is a casual player, I'm going to place this S tier. I won't go as far as to say it's the best weapon, but it's definitely a top tier option. S tier and fun though, much like the Greatsword, which you can check out the video on the screen now if you want to know why. The Greatsword is the most beloved weapon in Chivalry 2. We're going to get into why while I attack Galencourt with it. We'll have our usual narrated gameplay, we'll have some tips and funny moments along the way. The Greatsword is funny because it's a meta weapon, definitely S tier for TO. And it doesn't get hate the way weapons like the spear, the halberd, and the messer typically do. No question about it, it's a fan favorite. I think, interestingly, something that helps its case and its reputation is the messer is played the exact same way, in my opinion, but directly outclasses it. So if you're choosing the Greatsword, maybe you're trying to use the Warhorn, or you just like the skins, you're using a meta weapon, but there would be an option to just use something that is directly better. The slow wind-up definitely helps because it does seem like faster weapons get more hate than slower ones. I think that does make them a little more difficult to use in certain cases. Think, for example, the Longsword. It is mostly respected in TO. I mean, it definitely has haters, but because of how quick it is in duels, it does get a ton of hate there. I just think this game was a perfect example of why we love the Greatsword. I played it to its strengths. We ended up with a lot of kills. The game came down to the last 4 seconds. I'll let you guys see which way it ends up. This was originally supposed to be live commentary, but I kind of messed up the voice recording. Not exactly the biggest tool in the shed here, but I would like your guys' feedback on the live commentary because I think it's fun in a different way. That's a lot of the feedback I did get. Views were good, so it tells me people do like it. Narrated gameplay after the fact is always going to be the bread and butter of this channel because that's how I built up most of my recent audience. But now that I have the audio cleaned up and sounding much better, I've come back to it. Be as blunt as possible if you don't think it's worth uploading those anymore. But I will put up a community poll. Hopefully it'll be up by the time I upload this. And just check that out. It'll be on my channel page. And then you could vote and we'll kind of decide from there. But I will be doing it for a little bit longer. It's very hard to do these and play the game at the same time, so the gameplay is never as good. I still will give tips. Just, yeah, like I said, let me know. So that was a lot of talking, almost the entire first objective. I'll catch up with you guys 30 seconds a minute, something like that, as we go towards objective number 2. So as we pull off a nice counter feint here with the Greatsword, I want you guys to keep in mind something about the stab on this. The whole half sword thing it does makes it seem worse than it actually would be. But try stab dragging it, it'll just go so far and it's very easy to get around blocks. The reach may not be there and it's definitely not the primary attack you want to be using, but mix it in with your feints a lot and you'll be getting a lot of hits you wouldn't expect with other weapons. If this is your first video on the channel, please know that archers are the only people that are fair game. Everybody else, we don't really bother, we don't teabag, we don't grief, nothing like that. Even when my channel was much more popular and had more views, I would get teabagged a lot because of the whole content creator thing. And I didn't really go back at them unless it caught me on a bad day, just because it was such a regular occurrence and I guess they want their 5 seconds of fame. But archers are social rejects, as I said in my Archers Are Virgin video. So we focus all our negative energy on them. Detonate those powder kegs! Another great example is right here. We're going after someone with a heavy mace, but after he's going after the archer, we want to let him know, you take care of that guy. Unfortunately, he's going to sit back, not interfere, let the other guy tag in and take him from behind. He doesn't want to get in the way while the real alpha does work. Now, we haven't died yet, but we don't really care about a deathless run today. We can anyway, though, because someone's going to start attacking from behind. We do get an absolutely awesome teammate who's going to rush in like a berserker and try and help, but check this out. He's going to counter and hit me with an amazing Sword XL great kill. We're right back at him. We should be on the objective, but as of right now, our team is really loaded and we have a lot of killers, so we're not really too worried about the objective just yet. But I want you guys to pay attention. As this video goes along, we're going to lose some of those guys. Maybe they left or frustration, what have you. But they're going to get some field engineers that join on their side and completely turn the tide. So stay tuned to see how quickly this game changes. And I want you guys to see if you can point out the exact objective where it starts to change. And just a reminder, field engineers are the true heroes of Chivalry 2. They don't get the recognition they should. They make the ultimate sacrifice of keeping our team safe. And they definitely don't get the appreciation they should because the scoreboard always robs them, so thank them for their service in the comments below. Now it's about time we get on the other ship. I don't even think this is conscious, I'm just looking for more enemies, because right now, at this point, we are still rolling them a little bit. But here's where the Greatsword can be just so amazing. You can clear crowds with wide slashes, so we're going to start going up there, try and get in the fray, which is exactly what you want to be doing. But the overheads can one-shot archers. That's beautiful. We teabag him. That's half the reason I use this thing is those one-shots. This guy's AFK. That's a little different. Sorry about that. But there's just very few weapons that really help you in the fray surrounded by enemies like this one. I really need to be working on my team damage. That's been a little bit of a problem lately. So something I've done in the last few months of playing this is try and pick one thing to get better at over time. Obviously, positioning was my biggest weakness half the time I've played this, maybe more, probably more, let's be honest. But now, the new focus I'm going to try and work on is team damage because I'm just not careful enough. I'm not trying to steal kills, but I get a little too reckless and tunnel vision for those enemies. Definitely something I gotta work on. So a few archer kills later, we're gonna spend a lot of time trying to get back into combat. I'm gonna skip ahead because I'm not doing a deathless run I'm trying to hide. I've already died once, and I do die a lot later, but I'm trying to respect your guys' time because this game did go on quite a while. We're having trouble maneuvering through this crowd, figuring out where to go and where to kill enemies and stay alive, but you'll never guess what happens next. Another great thing about the Greatsword is look at this reach. I'm going to crouch and stay a little out of range of his mace, and that overhead, you love the overheads on this thing. Able to get the kill on an enemy that was giving me a lot of trouble. Now, we were having a ton of trouble getting up to the gate. If it wasn't obvious, this is when a lot of our killers left, and they ended up getting field engineers in the game. So from this point forward, it's going to be tough sledding, and we want to try and make the difference in this one to get that win and start playing the objective more than we have the first few objectives. For example, they seem to have the front cleared of the barricade, so I'm trying to hold off this spawn wave even if it means I'll die. After they get it, I move more towards the gate, and I'm going to die in the explosion. But a quick tip is that if you die on an objective like this, another one that came to mind is the Aberfell Tower. If you die in that explosion, for whatever reason, it doesn't count as a death on your score sheet. So if you're trying to go deathless, just run into those. It's a little bit inconsistent though, because take for example Askendir when you're pushing over the columns. If you get killed by that, for whatever reason, that's a death. One of the best attacks in the entire game that will consistently land even on good players is right here. You're going to see me do an overhead light drag. The heavy drag on the overhead works well too, but it can get gambled a lot and people just excel through it. But the light overhead drag just hits so often. Definitely something you want to add into your repertoire. While this is a Greatsword showcase video, you can use it on the Messer to the exact same effect. It's also one of the best weapons to 1vx with. The slashes work great. If your target's switching to one person, you could throw an overhead. Too many enemies here, but we held them off for a little bit. Towards the end of the relics, I'm starting to pile up the deaths. I actually cut out 2 because I just rushed into a crowd. I was on the phone for a little bit. This is a little bit of a hard game to play when I'm talking to people in depth on a conversation. A tip I like to throw out is you answer your mom's texts or calls no matter what. If she is interrupting a deathless run, a 100 kill game, you still answer your mom's text, you only get one. Don't be a bad son. I do stand by that tip about answering texts and calls from your mother, but it is going to lead to a lot of deaths. I am tempted to cut out some of them. I will cut out some of them, but this is kind of what they were like, is just rushing in for no reason, just not paying attention. I pride myself on honesty with you guys. It's why I kind of fast forwarded videos the first like 6 months of making the channel, despite people clicking off from what I saw in the analytics at the time. But I'm trying to balance respecting your time and being honest still. All I'm saying is when you see that final death counter, there are a few that were just cut out because they didn't really offer anything to the video. Evidently, I forgot what bandages are. I keep trying to help teammates. It's going to lead to a death that I should have saw coming, but there's an example of where that stab feint can be so helpful before we take a death. Another good example of crouching to stay out of the one-hander's range, and then using the Greatsword to reach to its full advantage. This was on purpose, as reckless as it was and a mistake. I do want to start pushing up because our team is really having trouble, as I've said at this point. The guy with the Highland Sword is definitely going to kill me if I make a run for the objective, but we want to start pushing up like a madman, and like I said, this is going to come down to the final 5 seconds. Stay tuned, let's see if we can get a win. With 5 seconds left, they're going to get it done. I'd love to be naive and say I contributed. I did send a lot of people to the spawn wave. I got a ton of kills, as you're going to see in a moment. But it's something I should have focused up more, especially on the end. I was pushing up recklessly and just going back to my own spawn wave a lot. No help to the team there. Again, I'm trying to do the objective more. And if you guys want to check out a video where I'm showcasing why the Raider is the best class for general pub stomping, it's on screen right now. Love you guys. See you in the next one. We're going to get into why the Raider is, in my opinion, the best class for general pub stomping in Chivalry 2, alongside the usual narrated gameplay as we play throughout Raid of Aberfell. If you played when this came out, it was a very Vanguard-focused update, so I feel like it fits. Also playing with Help Me Stepbo, we both had a lot of kills. Him and some others are going to be in this game, and they're from the Unyielding Discord, which will be in the pinned comment below. Join and let's get some games in. Now let's get into the gameplay and why the Raider is such a good class. First of all, it's the only class that gets 2 primary weapons. And all of them are good besides the glaive, but who even remembers the glaive exists, let's be real. I do want to take a second to talk about the Dane Axe because I've never done a video with it to my knowledge, and I really want you guys to pay attention to what I'm about to say. If you hate the Dane Axe and really hate people who use it, you flat out have a skill issue. I don't really use the Dane Axe much, but the Chivalry 2 Reddit has done a really good job of gaslighting everyone into thinking it's an overpowered weapon. Reddit is full of neckbeards and virgins, but the Chivalry 2 Reddit attracts a special kind of social reject. Anybody who's been outside knows this. It's not something that's exactly breaking news. So let's get into the Dane Axe itself. First off, it's a very easy weapon to use because of how quick it is while also doing great damage to knights and footmen. And if you're average to above average, maybe even a little good at the game, there's nothing that you're going to top the lobby with easier than this because a lot of bad players do have an issue with it. Now, the reason it starts to become not so great is when you're playing better players, and I do think this weapon, and I think most people would agree, has a limited skill ceiling. Even if it has that high skill floor, once you get better at the game, you really do want to move on to different weapons so you don't plateau. This isn't one I would really choose to specialize in long term. If you're one of those sociopaths who just uses one weapon all the way to level 1000, the only thing you use while you play, don't pick the Dane Axe is my point. You just won't be as well-rounded or good at the game. You will get a lot of bad habits that you'll pick up on, and that's not like the Messer, which has no weakness and is really just a master of all trades, and that's going to be your next weapon. The best way to play the Raider, in my opinion, is to throw your first Dane Axe and then use the Messer. The two-handed hammer isn't too shabby either. We all know that's a quick hitting blunt weapon that'll really just decimate knights. This is one of the funniest things I've seen in a while. So I'm so covered in the blood of my enemies that the other Masons think that I'm one of them, so I give them a good laugh and go about my day, and it actually works out that I survived there. Not for long though. And outside of the weapons itself, you get a great sprint attack that really can pile up kills on Vanguard. A leaping strike just does so much damage, you can get a lot of one-shots in. And for flat-out points, maybe not kills, you have the Warhorn. The Warhorn will always make you look better than you are on the scoreboard because you just pile up points with that thing. That's my rundown, but we're going to get into plenty of examples throughout this Aberfell game of exactly what I'm talking about. As I said, step bows on and all, and this happens to him every game I play with him. He's getting vote kicked, that's him to the right, MLG Cat Doritos, and some guy is raging in chat about spears. But he's not happy that step bow's jumping around. It's a common strategy you see with some of the top spear players like John Wick's Pencil, some of the CK members for example. Now, what you want to do when someone's jumping around with the spear, it's a little complicated, so try and follow me. If they jump up and they're about to stab you from above, you look up. Now, I know the people that don't understand this have a little bit of a learning problem. So what you want to do, say you're on controller like me, this is a tip for console people. You use the right stick, and then you push it up, and your character looks above instead of straight ahead. That was 4 minutes straight of talking and my whole rant on the Dane Axe and the class as a whole. Let's let this breathe a little bit. I'm going to let some gameplay play and I'll check in a little bit. This guy with the Dane Axe really wants us dead, and we get in a pretty cool back and forth. And these kind of kills are satisfying. After we counter his overhead, we excel it back into him for a kill. We did go for the crouch excel, but it really didn't work as well as it could have, but a little bit of an anticlimactic death afterwards. I pointed out recently that I'm telegraphing my drags for slashes way too much, and this guy is going to make the right decision when I start doing them here, that he's just going to hold block if he can't counter them. None of them are going to land, and it leads to a longer fight than it should be, and he's going to sit there and watch as I get finished off from behind. Now at this point, the Invisible Man rears his ugly head. We're going to get in a brutal fight with him. A very close one here. He counters this slash, but not the overhead excel. That was too much for him. We'll see him again soon, I'm sure. Another example of the Raider just putting up points because of its Warhorn. If I see a bunch of teammates are injured, I press one button, takes no skill whatsoever, and that's an easy 400 points on the board for me. This is an example where I know I'm doing something wrong, but it was funny, so I don't really care. I don't have any weapons at this point, but this guy's running away. I aggressively want him dead. I know spawn wave's coming. Why back up? I'm just going to try and get a funny clip and kill him with a punch. Doesn't exactly work out, but it made for a cool moment. I do try and remind people about once a video that this is a channel for the casual gamer. I have a lot of hours in this game, but despite that, I try and look at it as just a video game that I want to have fun in. We all get sweaty sometimes, but this game has always been about the community and the friends I've made, not so much just being really good at it. That just comes with playtime for me. I could be being a little naive here, but I would like to think this guy thought the same thing, because he's going to charge at me with half health on a Vanguard, so he's one shot to the messer, and that's what happens. Thank you for your service, President Harris. Good fight. After killing those two stragglers, we're going to skip ahead a little bit just because there's a long walk to the next objective. I always loved playing Vanguard on Raid on Aberfell, just because when this update first came out, it was very Vanguard focused. It was like the whole idea behind it was the Highland Sword coming out, the open fields like Braveheart. And what was pretty cool is my brother got really into Chivalry 2 in the very beginning with me, and he did play this update with me for a really good amount of time, put a lot of hours in. He doesn't play Chivalry 2 anymore, but he's very supportive of me and the channel, so I would like you guys to congratulate him, because by the time this is out, he will have been married to his high school sweetheart of 14 years. So I'd love for you guys to congratulate him in the comments. I love my brother, and yeah, just a life update for you. Leaving Strike on Vanguard is almost busted with how often you can be using this with any time you sprint, and with how many people have their back turned completely oblivious. It just leads to so many kills, and if I remember correctly, it will also recharge your Warhorn quicker the more you use it. Just a win-win all around. Now this is CK Slammin'. He's a very cool guy, a lot better than me at the game, even though I get him here, but I need you guys to shame him in the comments, because what he does that drives me crazy is if I'm trying to kill enemies and he's on that team, just let me cook, let me get in a cool 1vx, but instead he always got to come in with that big Executioner's Axe, ruin my whole day. It gets a little much. Just tell CK Slammin' to chill in the comments. And how can I forget the madman himself, Get Spiffy is in here. As I said earlier, these are members of the Unyielding Discord. That will be in the pinned comment. I'd love for you to see you guys there. So even though I use the Danax Messer setup this entire video, I really want you guys to be aware of another strategy, and the two-handed hammer is a great weapon. Don't sleep on it. As we massacre some archers, you'll love to see it. A common strategy a lot of people do, including my good friend Kool-Aid Man, is you use the two-handed hammer for knights you see off by themselves, and then use the Messer the rest of the time, because blunt damage, especially on those two-handers like the heavy mace and the two-handed hammer, really just destroy knights. Like, as a knight main, I'm always surprised when I switch over to Vanguard like this, how little damage they could do if you aren't getting that multiplier. I am just chomping at the bit to kill this archer off by himself, but you'll never guess what happens next. I really don't know how to feel about the heretic stage of this map and the ending of Dark Forest, because you can be rolling in a team an entire time or vice versa, and it really doesn't matter until the last stage, because this just in particular does not feel like enough time. 3 minutes is not enough, and honestly, half the time I'm in the zone getting kills for a minute, and then before I know it, I'm heading back to the spawn wave and only have like 30 seconds to get up there. It just happens way too often. It bothers me a little bit. Other than that though, I would say this is a great map. Definitely one of the better ones in the game. Upon checking the scoreboard around now, I did not realize I have so many kills, because it didn't really feel like it during the match. It's kind of funny because no matter how good a game I have, these competitive players like Stepbo, I just can't keep up with. And I'm pretty good at the game, don't get me wrong. I was forced to watch Star Wars a lot as a kid because my brothers were very into it. Absolutely horrible franchise, but one thing I did like they said in one of their terrible movies is there's always a bigger fish. And that's kind of how it feels. There's several of these fish that are competitive players. They're just built different. We can't really keep up with them. Do get the win here. The stat line was monstrous. You'll love to see it. If you guys want to check out some of my older videos, I cleaned up the sound on a lot of them and I'm uploading them without publishing the subscribers. They're all in a playlist on the screen right now. I have it up. Love you guys. See you in the next one. Now here's my first issue with the map. I love this objective. You're fighting in an open field. There's fire. It's so cinematic and cool. But why couldn't it have been as long, if not longer, than the beginning of Rudhelm or Lion's Spire? I think there was a lot of wasted potential there, because that could have been a significant part of the map that I thought was very fun. It just goes by really within minutes, even 2 minutes at times. The Messer is just so devastating. I've been having a lot of fun with using it again. I'm trying not to care so much about what other people think of weapons or how I'm playing, and just using what I enjoy. Longsword's always been #1, but Messer just really hits different. And the Wraithblade skin that they made, that just helps matters even more. I've been really loving it again. After so many times playing this map, I still don't know exactly where the bandage crates are, unless I'm going to run all the way back to the spawn, which I don't have time for that. Who has time for that? And a good friend I have, Aragi Karan, the best pub stomper in the entire game, He's in the Discord, by the way, if you'd like to join that, it's in the pinned comment. He's pointed out that there's actually bandage carts that are out of bounds for the map, where you're in a deserting zone. So that leads us to believe that they probably were on a little bit of a crunch maybe, and didn't put as much time as they should into this map. Again, I'll give my thoughts on the map as a whole a bit later. But now we're going to the bridge part, and as you probably guessed, this is the part that really makes the map, honestly, flat out miserable at times. There is just nowhere to maneuver at all. I mean, I can back up a little bit, but if you're trying to push that ram, where am I supposed to go? I always try and hug the right side of the ram, just because I don't want to get hit by the ballista. You guys know that drives me crazy. But team damage is inevitable, and I don't understand how you're supposed to survive this. When the map first came out and I was blinded by just how cool it looked, I thought that this was just a meat grinder and it was like realistic or something, and that it was kind of immersive, being stuck. Like, think about Battle of the Bastards, Jon Snow is gasping for air, that kind of thing, right? And I stand by, that's how it felt at first, but eventually when you play the map enough, it gets really tiring. There's not really much place to go, but I still have a bandage, so I back up, but you'll never guess what happens next. Now again, as we get back, both doing team damage and getting team damage is inevitable. All I feel like I can do is just push up and try and get behind them, because I hate hitting my teammates, even though I do it non-stop. I do have positive things to say about this map, don't get me wrong, but we're going to talk about each part as we go along with our usual tips. But right now it's all about these battering ram stages, and they are just absolutely miserable. Now here I get behind them, and I think they're so surprised anyone was able to even move around on the bridge enough that they don't attack me. And if you check the screen, that's a nice monster kill. Messer is just capable of so much damage, as I've said. But we get downed by a teammate, and can you really blame him? I don't really get mad at teammates for team damage in general, but in a case like this, what is he supposed to do? Battered and bloody, we're gonna back up, but you'll never guess what happens next. Yeah, that's the only thing that's frustrating about the bridge, is the moving around in archers. Otherwise, just stuff like getting farmed by ballistas on the spawn back. As you guys know me, I absolutely love siege equipment. Now, we're going to lead a covert operation with some like-minded people, probably also sick of this ballista. Fueled by hatred and frustration, we're trying to get up there still. Teammates are doing well supporting us, and we did back up and get a heal a second ago. But now they're distracted, and I'm going to get behind them. Nice little flank here, nice little maneuvering through the crowds. Most of my teammates have had enough fighting. They're going to go on their merry way back to the objective, but we do get a little bit more backup here. They're all in default skins though, so I'm not expecting much from them, but I commend their spirit and heart for going in behind enemy lines with me, but we don't end up making it to that ballista. After a walk back, we're right back in the action, but we get hit a few times. There's not much thing to do, so we're going to back up, and at this point, you can guess what happens next. A lot of you do follow for tips, so let me give you one here. Is on the Trayan bridge, the number one thing you want to do is telepathically know when an axe is being thrown at your head. I don't do that for a second, and I pay the price. Sometimes I think about doing Twitch, because a good thing that would make this translate to that platform is if you heard how much I raged at this right here, I would be more viral than Mr. Beast if you heard everything I said at this point. That stretch of time made me wonder why I ever started playing video games in the first place. If they were ever even worth starting to play, not even just Chivalry 2, because I was at my wit's end, and I still wanted to win the gate because I didn't go through all of that for nothing. I used to rage quit a lot, and I'm really trying to work on it, because people were getting pretty annoyed in YouTube comments pointing out I was in your game and you left early because you got off to a bad start. After that absolutely brutal stretch, I'm hoping you guys can cut me some slack. That whole stretch does kind of encapsulate how bad the bridge can be. It's just absolutely just awful. There's really no excuse for them to make it so small, and the ballista is a little annoying how when you spawn you can get killed so easily. Now, this part is sensational. You're fighting through a flaming city and going building to building, combat. It's awesome. But sometimes after I do the map before this and I know Trayan is coming, I leave because the bridge is just so annoying and the worst objective in the game that if it goes on too long like that one did to the last 15 seconds or so, it ruins the entire experience because it can take up half of the time you're on this map. It's also funny looking back because we did play very well. The final stats were great at the end of the game, but it doesn't even tell the whole story because I barely got to actually play with how brutal that was. And I do think it's funny because if you use the Templar armor or some kind of flashy thing, that just gets you so targeted by ranged weapons. It's pretty funny. I don't understand why people have like default armor so they don't get targeted if they're a high level. Because one, I think that makes you come off as pretty full of yourself, and two, cosmetics are part of what makes this fun. I do like standing out, but when things like that happen, especially the ballista at the spawn, as I kept saying, that ballista is going to see you first among all those people, and if you have flashy giant horns on your helmet, you're probably going to get shot. I'm turning away from my drag way too soon, and it's telegraphing that's what I'm doing, so that's why he's holding block. He definitely sees that coming. This is cramped, but I don't mind it because it's fighting building to building, close quarters, and it's not like you're all in one. You can move around and be in the streets, you can be in the different buildings. I would like to see them do this now that Chivalry 3 has been announced in future games where it's more like open cities and open areas. Definitely something I'd like to see them experiment with more. 3 minutes seems like plenty of time to get in there. The Mason engineers are defending it like their real-life families live in Trayan Citadel, but we do want to get into the roleplay ourselves, so we're going to burn our team alive with fire pots and fit that whole fiery, flaming Citadel aesthetic. Now, when VIP vs. VIP as the final objective was announced, we were all excited, and I gotta say, they nailed it, and this is another sensational objective. So Trayan really does come out as a tale of two halves. You have the first part, where the first objective is good, but it doesn't last very long, and then you have the two heat grinder, slog fest, terrible, disgusting ram phases. Then you have a second half of the map, which is just as good as it gets, really. It's maybe the best second half of the map. I would have liked that part through the city and this to be a little longer maybe, but overall that's kind of how the map goes. I mean, there's really no excuse for that first half with the bridge just being so thin and taking so much time to push, and you lose there a lot. And I would have liked to see that first stage have a lot more fighting within it, but so more than any other map, I think this one really does depend on who's in the lobby, as I said earlier, and how things play out with the balance, because if you're stuck pushing that ram the whole time, it really doesn't get any worse. And a lot of the times, it doesn't even get this far because the stage before this just takes so long. And I do think that first stage should have a longer period of time where you're just fighting in the battlefield. I think this could have been maybe the best map of all time for the slasher genre, but overall I think it grades out to good, above average, with a chance for things to really just be miserable. That's the word that I keep using because that's how it feels. We're fighting for our life to try and get Malric. Our VIP is very aggressive, which you like to see. I do enjoy when they're played that way. I feel like that's how they meant for this to play out, instead of just hiding each guy until the teammates do all the work. We're actually staying alive a decent amount of time on here at the top with all the chaos going on. And we actually did end up playing very well, too. That wasn't really the story of this one. It was mostly just a very long rant about the bridge. But in the end, the teams played well, but we didn't get it done. Now, I am going to have the audio enhanced videos in a playlist to the top left or right, whichever. If you guys do want to check that out and let me know what you think and if it's worthwhile to continue to do it, I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. If you love the games where I play for the win at all costs, go hard in the objective, die a lot in the process, but pile up the kills, this is going to be a perfect video for you. We have an instant classic Dark Forest game. It was endless. We died a lot because we had to. This team was not going to win otherwise, and I've really been loving doing the objective ever since I started recording again. It really just makes the game more fulfilling when you're playing for the win and not your own personal glory. This team really was giving their all. It was one of those games I used to talk about where you want to win for them because they are overmatched, but they're doing their best. They just don't have the killing power, even if they are on the objective the whole time. And it always means more when I'm playing with my friends and have a game like this. West absolutely popped off. And we have some new friends, Agatha Sunbro and JFK Experience, who are both in the Unyielding Discord. That'll be in the pinned comment, as always. West, in particular, is now the oldest friend I've had in this game, but we've played it with each other almost since the game came out. He's one of my absolute favorite people in the world, community legend. Everybody loves this dude. And I know from a viewer perspective, sometimes you guys like seeing other people in the videos, even though I don't have voice chat or anything on. And him, you guys seem to get a kick out of because he's always rushing around with the Executioner axe. So I'm going to try and get more friends in future videos as we kill a bunch of archers. Now let's get into the gameplay. We're going to be using the Messer. This one I may cut out a little more deaths than usual if it's just a catapult or a ballista, something like that, because it went on forever. I do pride myself on being honest with you guys and showing every single death, but this game is too good not to put up. It was just a banger, like I said, but I do want to respect your time, so a lot of things will be cut out if there wasn't really much going on. Maybe I'll skip forward more than usual. But yeah, let's get into it. We're using the Messer and we're going to be attacking. I usually don't have too much trouble fighting the War Club, but this guy ended up with almost 100 kills, so I think he probably would have just killed me with whatever he was using. This is a little too aggressive here, but again, they were having trouble pushing the convoy already. Here's our first big mistake of the day. We're swinging wildly, heavy swinging, not really doing a good job managing our stamina. This Vanguard with a Messer is going to do a great slash to slash feint, and I do not have the stamina to counter feint. That cost me right there. If someone uses a special attack in a one-on-one back and forth fight, I always take it as like they don't take me seriously. After we easily avoid it, we're going to emote no and keep going after an easy kill. Lately, I've been talking about how I go into each engagement with an escape plan if things go south. And here, I didn't really do that, and that kind of cost me big time because the only way to get out of here is to walk backwards. and go behind that branch, and there's really just nothing I can do about that if there's enemies on both sides. Would have been best to just keep moving along and not go in there. Now this is exactly what I'm talking about. There's not even a lot of people fighting off to the side. They just can't even get up to the convoy. So this is the point we start realizing the only way we're going to win this game is if we're going hard on it basically the entire time between me and Wes. And Agatha Sunbro is not a bad player either. Very good. He got his first 100 bomb in this game, so congratulate him in the comments. And after me and Wes start to get on here, it does start to get pushed a little bit further. It's still just costing a lot of deaths. I've cut out 3 that were just blatant walkbacks and being overrun. Again, the team did not have the killing power, but they're doing what they can. If you look around, there's nobody fighting outside of here. It's just every time we tried to get up here, they weren't really surviving very long at all. I did the best I could to clear it out, and look at that. I had stayed alive long enough to and pushed the cart a little bit. Now the rest of the team is starting to move up. It did take a few more uneventful deaths with no kills, but pushing the cart, we're able to get it with just 45 seconds left. That does not bode well for the rest of the game, because this first convoy push should be a gimme that you get very easily, as is this gatehouse. Let's see how long this one's going to take. To make matters worse, they have engineers going hard to try and barricade up that gatehouse. The team pushed hard on the barricades, and we had West, of course, fighting a spawn wave as he often does, holding them off at the stairs, which oddly enough does work out very well. I throw a fire pot to slow down the advance. Doesn't work as ideally as I thought, but we do hold the gatehouse regardless. It may be hard to tell right now from the video, but at this point the team was not pushing up as well as they thought. I think because they were so relieved to get those first 2 objectives done. Now they're kind of resting on their laurels a little bit. But I've played this game enough. I know that 6 minutes is not really a good amount of time to only have the cart pushed a little bit. I've died a few times trying to push up here. It's not coming easy at all in this game. By this point, the team really is starting to realize that there's only 5 minutes left, a little under even. And this is going to be a really hard push now because there's not really much time at all. I give them big time credit from here on out. They're really locked in and focused. What really worked out about not retreating when I was outnumbered was I held them up long enough for the rest of the team to come. I don't know if that's the right strategy in a more competitive game, but in the pubs it kind of works. I also feel like on Dark Forest, if you're on the cart, you're dealing with fire pots non-stop. They're just getting thrown. It's like a inferno. You're in hellfire all the time. It's really cool. It's pretty immersive, but nothing makes me crazier than dying to fire. It's a little aggravating. I don't get as annoyed at the person because it's obviously their special ability. They're not shooting like archers every single shot far away from the action, every single attack instead of just one fire pot. It's probably for the betterment of the team though, because no one wants to smell those unshowered virgins. It really does start to make sense they play a class that's far away from the rest of their team because you know they're not going out. They're not around people a lot in real life. They're probably on Chivalry 2 a lot, no girlfriends, that kind of thing. But we're almost done with the cart. We're very close to the end here. And we have plenty of time. Things are starting to turn around big time here. I went off to the side a little bit to heal, and I get chased down, but it takes a few people away from the cart, so that works out well. The theme of this entire video, if you couldn't tell, is playing hard for the win, and it really did feel fulfilling to do this again. I'm glad that I'm recording and trying to do that content for you guys, because it's something I'm even taking into games I'm playing on my own, not on video, and it's just so much fun to be enjoying Chivalry 2 again. At this point, you have to wonder if the other team's real-life families live in that castle in Dark Forest, because they are defending that thing with their lives. Despite dying nearly 40 times in this one for the W, I haven't died to archers much at all, but I am going to die right here. Just go for a nice swim, go flying, just dive right into that water. At this point, catapults make me almost as mad as archers do. The tooltip for the Messer in the equipment select screen says that it has faster, stronger slashes, but the best attack on it, in my opinion, are the overheads. They look strange, they're hard to counter, and they do a lot of damage, in particular on Vanguard. They'll eat them alive. They only survive about 2 hits. A tip for all you cowards out here is if you back up into this fire, it doesn't count as a death if you're low health. I did it while trying to maneuver around because I'm not like that, but I know a lot of people who play this game are. Just a small tip for you to keep your deaths low. I have a bit of a skill issue with the one-handed axe, but I'm able to keep my distance for this last hit, crouch to not move my character forward while I'm swinging, and that keeps him out of range and we'll get a slash to get the kill. There's a lot of players around now, a lot of enemies. I don't know what I was thinking. There was definitely a moment I could have backed out. Make sure when your footmen heal you that you thank them. Emoting is a big part of this game. It's what makes it fun. Don't forget to do those little interactions. You can make a friend for life that you didn't expect just by doing that. This game was all about playing for the win, but it was nice to string together a bunch of kills here because to this point we were having a pretty brutal game on the stat sheet. So it was nice to finally turn it around. Now we got to kill the Duke. Let's see if we can finally secure this win. It has been some tough sledding in this game. We've really laid out for the win. A lot of deaths. Let's try and get it done. I can be guilty of a lot of team damage, and especially with a hard-hitting weapon like this. I'm doing my best to avoid it on our good friend Agatha's son, bro. It's just getting so hard to get in there. A lot of times Dark Forest's last objective is what wins or loses the game, almost all the time, honestly. And if you have a good team, it's just hard to get in there at all. The kills are 821 to 787, by the way. This game just was endless. I did mention earlier, that's why I cut out so much of this one, because I do want to respect your guys' time. But I just had so many deaths as well, so the walk back was brutal. There's a lot of deaths just pushing the cart and on the barricade stage where I was just dying on the objective. It was a tough one, and we really want to bring home this win, but it's looking really bleak right now. Again, just look how devastating those overheads can be. Now this is really disheartening because I know at 20 seconds it's likely over, but once I die here, there's really no chance. It's going to be no walk back for a respawn. Very disappointing. This game single-handedly kind of tanked my KD if I were to check it. And I love you guys so much. Check out the videos to the left and right. There's a Messer game where I got 90 kills, and I'll see you in the next